Hear Me See Me podcast is sponsored by Zenoti, the #1 cloud software for salons and spas. Because when people feel good, they find their greatness. I am Stuart Roberts, and I'm really excited to introduce my new podcast, Hear Me See Me. It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them it is their job. I had this idea after being inspired by a guy in America I'd seen cutting hair on the streets and seeing the difference it made to the guys who were there. This is more than a job, this is a calling. Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me See Me podcast. Today I've got a lovely guest introduced to me by a great friend of mine, Millie Kendall. And she realised that we both had passion for what we do. And today I'm talking to Keri Blue, founder of Hair Has No Gender. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are yourself?
I'm very good.
Good.
We just had a little chat before we got started and immediately clicked. I knew exactly, we've got a lot in common. But before we do anything, just explain to anyone listening, Hair Has No Gender. Tell us the agenda.
The gist of that. Hair Has No Gender is something I formed back in lockdown. I think it was point 1, like the very first time we were told not to come out. And I'm non-binary, so my pronouns are they, them, and I identify as queer. And I've walked into a lot of barbershops before I was a barber, which would have been about 5-6 years ago now, and asked for a fade and been point blank refused for being a female. So they were like, oh, we're not insured, we can't cut your hair, you're going to have to go to a female shop. And then I'll go to a hairdresser's and I get told, well, we don't use clippers or this, that. So I was like, well, this is great. So I went back to London from Brighton and I learned to be a barber so that I could stop that from happening to other people. 5-6 years down the line, I've gone to barbershops, I've asked them to use my pronouns and they're point blank refused. So what I'm trying to do is just take away the stigma of if you have to be a woman, you go to a hairdresser's, if you want to be a man, you have to go to a barber. Obviously, being non-binary or a trans man or a trans woman, it kind of makes you feel uneasy. It feels like you don't really fit into either or, when what Hair Has No Gender is saying is hair. And that's it, actually. As soon as you put the gown on someone, does it really matter what's kind of down there? And gender it's all in the brain. It's not necessarily anywhere else. And so I started Hair Has No Gender as an educational platform, let's say, and just to help people degenderize their salons or their barbershops. We've got a platform where we train people, and online as a directory so people can look up. Maybe if you're a non-binary person and you're in Manchester, non-binary barbershops within Manchester, it'll come straight on the directory. You'll know that people have been safely trained and they know not to misgender you, and you can feel comfortable, because being non-binary and queer, to us, a lot of our image is a lot to do with our hair, and it makes us feel more maybe the gender that we identify with. So, and not only that, cis straight people might want skin fades as well. Like, why are we discriminating against anyone that wants a haircut? Unless your skill level isn't there, then just say you can't cut it. But yeah, that's basically what we do, or what I do. And we also run trans awareness courses and stuff like that, an introduction to it, so people can learn a bit more about how they can adapt their salon to make people feel more comfortable and more inclusive.
It's a great thing. I'm on a journey myself with my daughter.
Oh, really? Go on,
I'm on a journey of doing my best to understand, doing the best I can, making lots and lots of mistakes which get pointed out to me very quickly. And
is your daughter non-binary?
No, she's not. She's
okay, so she identifies as her.
She's a gay woman. Yeah. Okay, so cool. She's a gay woman, but even that respect of, there's still a lot for her to teach me, And, it's funny because it's been a bit of been a bit of a weekend, really, because she was out with her girlfriend on Friday night. It was her birthday Saturday. She was out with her Friday night, and they got sort of like verbally attacked by a gang of fellas. They got... it wasn't physical, but it was very, very intimidating. And she's not, she'll stand up for herself.
Yeah.
It was scary, So that
was very scary.
It's a horrible thing, and it brought a lot home to me, to what she goes through.
That's awful.
I'll send you the video later. I had a surprise present for her, where I bought her a rainbow dildo for her birthday.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I see my dad doing that anytime soon, but I can be up for adoption if you like. That's classic.
It was me saying, like...
I'm all on board.
Humour anyway, but I just...
Lord.
I just saw it online. I know. This is her birthday present. I've seen it straight away. But it was that thing of this contrast of not being accepted and then being accepted. And
that'll be on the mantelpiece now, mate.
Yeah. I put one on the Christmas tree one year, and it took 3 days for everyone to notice that it was up there.
Oh, sounds like a good idea, that actually. Might go back to my parents and terrorise them with it. Yeah, but it's such a shame.
Just leave it around like that little the elf at Christmas, elf on a shelf.
Oh yeah, dildo on a shelf. But it's the fact it was rainbow. That's great.
yeah, that was the one. But it's that, like as you say, it's it shouldn't be, but there is. No. There shouldn't be this stuff, but there is, and it's education. That's the whole thing to everything, and it's being willing to learn and change. And it's something I've seen recently in recent years with Afro hair. That thing of Afro hair, like, we don't do Afro hair. We don't do your hair. And I've got a lot of friends who have done great work in that field of saying, no, look, we do hair. We do all types of hair. I'm a hairdresser, therefore I do hair. And it goes on to that as well. But I can see your frustration on that. When you said, I can't go in there, they don't want me. And the barbering field is a very
I
male-dominated.
mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not the most feminine of people. I've got tattoo, I've got the typical skin fade tattoos, barber image. However, it's taken me a very long time to feel confident enough to just express myself how I want to. And I can take myself into them shops now and feel, a little bit more comfortable, because I've got to that age in life where I kind of can't swear on here, but just don't give a,
feel free. You don't.
I'm going to try it. Okay. Yeah, I don't anymore. I think I get more anxiety, really. Like, for me, it's little things like even going to a toilet when you're out in a restaurant and there's male and female, or, like, everything in this world is binary. We live in a binary world, so everything is binary. And if you don't look like a typical female when you walk in a door, people always assume. People can assume a lot of things. There's an unconscious bias that we all have. Your wealth, your race, your language, anything, But if someone like me walks into a barber shop, I think straight away it's an assumption, oh, this lesbian, blah, blah, blah. We can ask them X, Y, and Z questions, or, and it can make people feel on edge, because you don't necessarily want to be referred to as your sexuality. You want to be referred to as the human being that walks in that door. And I think that's everyone's human right to just be themselves before their sexuality or how they identify, So that's what Hair Is No Gender, and what I'm trying to do is just kind of raise awareness. So if the whole high street of barbershops and salons just didn't have any of them, and it was like, if you want a short hair specialist, come here. If you want an afro specialist, come here. If you want a blow dry specialist, go there. Rather than if your skin's this color, or if you have wheelchair access, or if you have a dick or something else. What on earth? What world are we living in? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shouldn't necessarily be. You don't go in a nail shop for your hair done. So it kind of should be related on the specific the thing that you actually want and nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, and it, like you're so sad, like your daughter getting that kind of abuse, but it's only happened so many times, even to myself, walking down the street holding hands with my partner and have a bunch of people, you know, either hitting on my partner or giving us abuse. If I was a man, that wouldn't have happened.
No.
So, you know, it's a struggle, and it's just, and I think a lot of queer people would understand that it happens in every single aspect of life. And, you know, that, like, it's something we need to eradicate, because if we don't educate people now, like my dad didn't come out to me coming out with, he certainly didn't give me a rainbow dildo. We just about now might have a chat about girls on telly or something, but that's like, you know, literally very, very one in a blue moon. But that's a lack of education. I don't really blame my parents. No. I blame the lack of education that was put on them and the world that they were told was right and wrong. And actually, I think they were more embarrassed that I was different to the rest of the family, rather the fact that they embraced that I'm just who I am. And, you know, I came out 23, 24, I'm 39 now, and we've gone through a very long journey, which obviously I can explain in a bit, but it's led me to contact you, because what you do for homeless people is incredible. So I think a lot of youth homelessness comes from the LGBTQ plus community, and that's where I kind of thought, we should definitely try and like get involved there in some way, and if I could get your help with that, that's why I was like, well, Millie was like, contact you, and we definitely have a combination there. So
I mean, there's definitely something there for you to set up and run with, but also a collaboration between the two of us as well. You know, that could, definitely. You know, like we've got so many teams across the UK. We've got 600 volunteers.
It's amazing.
You know, we could all do with education, so we could all do with knowing when we come across a person in that same, you know, position, that we make them comfortable.
I mean, for me, coming out wasn't the easiest journey, especially then, because, you know, back then it was still very taboo to be gay or lesbian, and I hated the word lesbian. I always hated it, but when I did come out, for my own safety, my parents asked me to leave. I then got put into a bit of homeless sheltering from Stonewall charity at the time, which they helped me out. And, you know, like being kicked out of somewhere, you know, purely because of your sexuality is hard, especially when you're young and you're susceptible to just going out all the time. You're around drinks, you're around drugs. And then that can be a really vicious cycle. And it can also make you feel that you don't have a lot of self-worth, and, you know, you can't afford your hygiene, let alone to have good looking hair and stuff like that. So it's a massive, I think it's 24% of homelessness is youth homelessness are gay or queer identifying. And I think like there's 77 to 80% believe that they can't express their gender identity at home because they'll get kicked out if they do. So many people stay with their parents, don't tell them, have long hair like myself, had a boyfriend and just kept it to myself because I was so scared that if I said it, I'd end up homeless. So then I got shipped off to Brighton, which weren't the worst thing in the world. And now we have a great relationship, and it took a lot of time, but I educated my parents, and they didn't give up on me. And I think, to be honest, do I blame them? No. Do I blame people that don't want to be educated now? Yeah, because there's more out there. Like, there's a lot more education out there, and I wouldn't be doing my part if I didn't speak up.
Yeah.
So, as long as people want to learn, then whether they've gone 50 years denying it their whole life and then they turn around and say, actually, you know what? Tell me, then I've got massive respect for that. So. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I did, and to try and flip the coin on it as well, that when my daughter came out to us, when she came back from university and she was picking me up on everything that I said, one day I downloaded this film, and it was called Love Thy Neighbour, and it's an old 1970s film.
Okay, yeah, I never heard of it.
And it's about
showing your age.
No, I'm 60 next year, so I'm proud of that one.
Oh, mate, looking good for it.
Yeah, well, the 70s, this was so. I was born 62, so in the mid-70s, I was a teenager. Now, what we were brought up on, I'm not excusing anything, but what we were brought up on was this type of comedy. And it was all about, and it was full of racism, homophobia, and all of these things. So I downloaded this film and I played it. And they was just like,
gobsmacked.
I can't believe. And what I was trying to say to them was that to be a little bit understanding of us, because this is what we were brought up on. This was our staples, you know. So we've got to relearn a lot. We've got to unlearn a lot of stuff. Sort of a default, you know, like an automatic default, and you have to sort of stop and think, and I love hearing something like this from you. It's this, you know.
I mean, I misgender myself, like I said to you before, and it does happen. I'm 39. I was brought up as she, her my entire life until the last 2 years when I came out as non-binary, and I did that through, you know, reaching out to people with a survey for Hair Has No Gender, and I thought if I reach out and I say, how many people that own salons have staff that are gay, that don't want to say, that are non-binary, that don't want to say? It's the time to now speak up and say, you know what, actually, these are not my pronouns. Can you use this? And I don't expect everyone to get it right. And I said, if you get it wrong, I'll just correct you. And I think the fact that I was born in 82, so I've watched, you know, a lot of shows where racism was okay. I was brought up when being called queer was a rude word and offensive. Now I own I say I'm queer. Yeah. I own it, because it's basically like people would be like, oh, they're a bit queer, so they're not quite right. But it's like, well, actually, I'm fully all right. So if you want to call me queer, call me queer. I like it. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to take a step forward and remember that who someone sleeps with and what pieces they've got down there doesn't at all affect that person's brain. And we might not understand it. Someone might walk in the door that doesn't look any way like you would imagine, but if you can cut their hair on, does it really matter? Because you know, their life choices when they leave that shop could lead them to get the job of their dreams or the marriage of their life, or your life, as you know, you met so many homeless people. People don't just become homeless. There's a route and there's a way, and something will happen, and then it's a ripple in effect. And if you can be that change, why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to just educate yourself and try and stop that from happening? You know,
it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Gender and sexuality, like the
very different
on gender and sexuality. Of like, if someone comes in and they often they specifically sort of talk about gender or sexuality, but you wouldn't, like, if you went somewhere, they wouldn't say like to a straight person, like, so. Are you sort of missionary person, or do you like a bit of doggy? You know, like they wouldn't. Do you know
they wouldn't. They wouldn't say that at all. That's the thing that like if you've got a trans client and you know they're a trans man, so they're born a woman and they're now a man, you don't say like, well, have you got all of it down there? But people think it's okay to ask people that, or it's like, what was your name before? That's just rude. Like, why are you asking people their names? Like, and you know. My brother, who is a straight cis male, which means he was born in the body that he's in and his mind matches it, so I'm assuming you're also a straight cis male. He didn't say to my parents, oh, I like shagging women. Yeah. But apparently I had to. So, you know, and it is weird when you think about it like that. Because of tradition. Because what? Because, you know, it doesn't, in my head, it doesn't make any sense, and it never has. Yeah. But if someone's told something from birth that black is black and white is white, we will assume that's the right way. And some people are so scared of what's different, when actually it doesn't really matter, you know. And I'm sure a lot of people as well, they're always like, oh, I've got loads of gay mates or this and that. But when it's actually your child and you're in a first-hand situation and now you can say for yourself, you know, it does change it quite a bit. Because you probably, the life that you might have had imagined for your child, marrying a man and having kids, and that might not be the life journey she now takes.
No.
And sometimes that can impact the parent, and I totally get that. But, you know, your children are a gift, and as long as she's healthy, I think that's the most imperative thing.
I think it's a time of adaptation, you know, like
definitely.
But it's the thing is, with this whole century, you know, we're in a new century. Yeah. we're sort of 21 years into it, which is a tiny part of the way into this century, and it's been such a time of change. You know,
yeah, agreed.
In that 21 years, you know, we've gone through a pandemic. That, you know, we're talking about hairdressing. The hairdressing industry has gone through massive changes in the last few years, and I think you need to embrace change. That's the thing. You need to lose the fear of change and embrace it, because you keep trying to do things as they were, you're just going to get disappointed, and it's not going to be very productive. So it's looking forward to see how we can understand and how we can change.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. And I think that's where, you know, Hair Is No Gender comes in, because people like maybe yourself, if you had a salon, or someone older at school, or even like people my age have salons, and they are like, so how do I change my price list to make people know that they're safe here? Or, you know, it's like representation. Do you represent queer people? Do you reach out to queer communities? You know, do you do pride events? There's a lot of ways that salon owners and barbershops can embrace difference and not be scared to make that change, because I feel like if you don't, you will just stand out eventually as being discriminative, unfortunately, because, you know, like, you can't just say you can't come in here because you're the wrong gender. It just doesn't make any sense in my head. And that knock-on effect to that human being could be devastating, and it could lead to so much worse stuff than just they didn't get their hair cut.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to prevent. And yeah, like, you know, I think when there's figures like 24% of homeless people are of, you know, the 16 to 25-year-olds that are kicked out for being gay, that's it's a very scary percent of young kids that haven't even lived yet. And it needs to be stopped. And the more that the world adapts and the salon industry adapts, maybe then parents of a certain age will be like, oh, actually, it's not a big deal. Okay, cool. Because that's all they need is support and love, you know?
It shocks me that it's such a high number. You know,
yeah.
That's incredible. And obviously, like on my travels, I come across lots of young people that are homeless, and it generally is some sort of family breakdown. But you wouldn't think in this day and age it would be as much of it being down to that, the fact that it's embraced by your family.
I think a lot of it is, especially when they're transitioning. So, you know, I think sexuality has come a long way. I think coming out as gay now isn't such a big deal as it was 10 years ago at all. However, coming out as trans, that really is messing with people still. And the trans community are really struggling to, you know, that's where the homelessness, in my opinion, will be. Because a lot of the time as well, the parents will kick them out and say, text me because I don't actually want to see you transition. I need to still have contact with you because you're my child, but I'm not quite ready yet. And it's like, this isn't about you. This is about that person, that child and their journey. And I think the more we speak about trans rights, the quicker this will change the industry, and the quicker there'll be a less homelessness within that community, you know. Obviously, I'd like to eradicate homelessness full stop, as you would as well. But
got to be really,
one step at a time, you know. Realistically, do I think in my day and age, do I think that in my lifetime I'll ever see a non-binary world? Probably not. If I don't do this now, then our kids might not ever. And, you know, like, if your daughter has a child and they say they're gay, it's not going to be, they'll never have to go through the fear of telling their mom, you know. And that's because the little changes are happening every single day. I don't imagine you'd ever thought of kicking your child out for being gay. So
no,
it's definitely getting better, you know.
Yeah,
you might
kicking her out for being a pain in the arse, but not.
I was going to say probably other reasons.
But no, not
for being gay.
No, and it's but I won't say I won't see it because I you know, it's not been easy. You know, like there's things that aren't easy about it, and as you said, but it's that if the love's there, if the willingness is there, it's always a work in progress. And the bottom line comes to it is you know, that's my little girl, no matter how she gets, how old she gets, or. You know, and all of my children, I've got 5 children, and 4 grandchildren. So
Start a footy team there, mate.
Well, you know, I figured out what's happening and what caused it, so I've stopped that. But
breeders.
Yeah, but it's definitely something that the biggest horror for me would be to lose contact with any of my children. You know, that's the biggest fear for me, or for any of my children to come to harm, or for any of my children to be unhappy. So that's the end goal, and so everything else can be figured out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
you know,
it's just a learning curve, and literally every day, even I still learn that I could do a whole hour-long session just on terminology, you know, and language, how we speak to people. What the hell? What even are pronouns? What is this? What is that? You know, can I say transvestite? No, you can't. Can I say this? People don't know, and then you know, if they don't know, they don't mean to necessarily cause harm. However, as long as you're willing to educate yourself, then what more can you do?
Explain to me the transvestite.
So that's a really old school terminology. So it's just not used anymore. Trans or transgender is the word we would use. It's just more politically correct. You know, if you've got trans man, trans woman, you've got non-binary, and you've got cis male, cis woman.
It just concerns me because my party piece song is now gone. Like,
what's that?
I'm just a sweet transvestite from the Rocky Horror Show. So,
oh right, yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? That it just hasn't got the ring to it. If I say I'm just a sweet transgender, I'm just a sweet transgender. That's like you got to let me have that one because my Tim Curry Rocky Horror Show days go back.
If you're doing Rocky Horror, I'm not going to interrupt you. I think the thing is, it's like any situation. I think you can comfortably hold a conversation. Like the more me and you chat and banter, we can probably joke about things because you'll understand me more, I'll understand you more, and it's just like that generally. And I think, you know, like a lot of my clients, they'll misgender me, I'll say it, and the more people get used to it, and the more people are around people like myself, the better it just, and the easier it is. Because for so long, there's 2% of the world's population are trans, apparently, but there's a lot more out there. It's just the fact that a lot of us are too scared to admit. You know, it's taken me. I came out as bisexual, then I was gay, then I was, then I was non-binary, then I quit. So there's a lot of boundaries and hurdles, but that's purely because I was too scared to say who I was straight away. Scared of backlash, and there's got to be hundreds and thousands of people out there. 2% you would have met every day. You probably meet someone who is even probably non-binary or trans. You just don't know it because they haven't said it. And I think it's an eye-opener to educate people on this, and we exist. So, just it's a weird one because, my partner's got a 10-year-old and he never misgenders me. He completely gets it. He doesn't ask any questions, and he's amazing. And if someone misgenders me, God, they've got him to deal with. So, it's super cute. Yeah, like he's always got my back. And it's interesting because, I think if you're educating people from this generation, they're going to get it right because it's natural to them.
Yeah.
Whereas I've met other people that are a bit older, and I've told them, and they just continuously disrespect my pronouns. And on a more serious note, that you misgender someone, that's going to make them 30% more likely to commit suicide and other horrifying things. So there's a lot of horrible facts and figures behind what I do.
Yeah.
But to keep it light, it's just we're gay, we're people, we're human. Just cut our hair. I'm interested
in that other side. And I was just actually going to say to you, do you feel that sometimes that people are actually saying that intentionally to hurt?
Yeah.
Using that misgender to intentionally hurt or to be spiteful?
I think people are scared. Yeah, I think I did Salon International where I actually met you, obviously. Well, didn't meet you, but watched you, which is amazing. I did a talk on the inclusivity stage at one point, and then I went to watch a talk in another part of Salon International, professional beauty. and there was a sound engineer there. And we were talking about a lot of things, and then I spoke a bit as an audience member, just as a non-binary person, and about trans. And right at the end, anyway, he said thanks. I was like, oh, how was it? Because he kept making the thing of being the only guy in the room, and it was a bit weird conversation. So it was all about waxing and intimate parts. I said, oh, did you find that a bit overwhelming, mate? He went, no, to be honest, the only bit that I found awkward was when you spoke. And I was like, oh, why? He said, I don't get all this tranny stuff. I don't get it. It's not for me. He was of an older age.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean it's not for you? He said, it's just not right. I said, do you want to talk to me about it then? Should we have a conversation? And he was just like, no, I don't want to. I said, so is that your problem or is it mine? And, I said, I can educate you. He said, no, I just, I choose not to hear about it. I said, but it's all around you.
Yeah.
And, he was very, very coy. He didn't want to talk to me, and he got quite defensive. And
yeah,
I think, don't worry, that situation has been dealt with and they know about it. But it's just little things like that where he didn't want to talk to me. I made him uncomfortable, but I don't really understand why.
Yeah.
And I can only assume it's because he just has a lack of education.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't, if he walked past me on the street, I'd be invisible purely because to him, he wouldn't understand me. And I think it's people like that I'm just like, oh, this is why the world is how it is, because we have so many people that are just so like, it's wrong. We don't want our kids educated in school because then they'll believe it's right.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting, and it does hit a nerve, and I did come out of there feeling quite upset, and because you feel such a high when everyone like yourself and people get on board, and Millie, and they're like, give me all this support. But you do, for all that support, you do have that one arsehole, if I can say that. But it's like, oh. But if he turned around and asked me a question, I would have been fine. But the fact that he literally was like, no, basically, fuck off, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Just left me a bit dumbfounded, to be honest. I was a bit like, well, okay.
I think that's the thing. And as human beings, we get all that support all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the arsehole you'll take to bed with you.
Yeah.
They're the ones that stay in there, aren't they?
They're the ones that corrupt your brain.
Them out, because they do, that stuff, I have it with my homeless guests, and I'll have 48 will be fantastic, but 2 will be horrible. And it's the 2 that you take to bed with you, and you think, like...
It literally looks at me like I was the shit on the end of his shoe, and it's like them images. You don't forget people's faces. You don't forget, like, if you walk into a toilet and someone screams, "Oh, you're a boy, and what are you doing in here?" It's like, these things are just not cool. You don't understand the effects that they leave people. To be waiting for ages for a haircut to be told, no, we can't do your hair. It's like, just embarrassed, and you don't know how to handle it. And no one likes an embarrassing situation. And you go home with it, and it molds you as a person, because then you're not, you don't walk with your head held high anymore. You walk a bit lower because you consciously don't want to attract attention. And it's a bit sad, really, because that only has a negative effect on your mind, Not to go too spiritual, but it definitely does. For me, I've learned how to handle it a lot. I've got a great supportive partner and friends who I can manage to get it out of my system. But he's still there. He's still in my head. I can still remember his face. It will never go. I just don't understand why, and it's like, I said to him, what if your daughter, don't be so silly, it never happened. God forbid his daughter ever was gay or trans, because he would definitely not support that child. And
no,
that's worrying, he's got grandkids, and them grandkids are going to then end up how, and I think it's just, I think it's just a learning curve, and education is definitely the way forward. You do. Every day we meet arseholes anyway, but, majority of the time you meet nice people, and there's people out there that want to be kind.
Yeah, I mean, our industry is full of amazing, wonderful people. But then
definitely.
You get the odd couple, and they're the ones that, but I don't know. I just have to, I make myself have faith that most people are good. They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to let them have rent in my mind, like headspace, because it's like, there's no need for me to let them in there, It's
a good way of putting it, actually, rent in my mind.
Yeah.
I like that.
They don't need to live in there rent free. Like, You know, what's the point?
Sorry, dog's gone.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Fine. What's the point? You know, what's the point in these things? You know, they don't. It doesn't matter. Let's have. You put them out.
Yeah, I had to put her out there. She won't stop barking for us. Sorry, mate.
What breed is it?
A jug.
Oh, is
I had
it?
to think about that. Yeah, it's my partner's dog. So, but yeah, she's old, but she's very loud.
Says on me.
But yeah. Oh yeah, I think I couldn't agree more with you. Like it's just a case of trying to block it out, and I think, you know, the more we talk about it, have these conversations, the more people like yourself and me help. And you know, I met Errol Douglas, and he's been awesome helping me, like, you know, helping me with the cause. And
a good person, very good person.
He is indeed, and he's done a lot with inclusivity within the industry as well. So I think it's just taking that a little bit further and just making sure people, you know, if they own a salon or they own anywhere, or they know someone that's trans and they can't go to a hairdresser's or a barber shop, just look up Has No Gender online and reach out or help, you know, like as I know you would. And I think it's just education is the key. If you've got a question, I had a great barbershop in Southampton call me today about an issue they're having there, and you know, I was on the phone for an hour and the issue should be solved. And I think just ask. I think that's the best thing that anyone can do, is just ask. You're only going to get told no if I can't help, I can't help. But if anyone wants to help, you know, and I think that's why contacting you and getting this message out there on your platform is like, I'm honestly very, I appreciate it a lot. Definitely.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. So, what took you from Brighton to Manchester? Why did you head off to Manchester?
Well, I'm born and bred in London. Don't know if you can tell, Gov, but like, yeah, West London as well, Portobello Road. And I went to Brighton because I was gay, and my parents did believe that I'd be safer there. Spent my 10 years there, and actually, you know what, it's probably the best thing they ever did for me. Actually, I really did embrace Brighton. I got discriminated against there as well, however.
Oh yeah, it's
a massive queer community. It's the gay capital, not the lesbian capital. It's the gay capital. A lot of people don't even. It's the gay capital because, as well, for a weird ass reason, it was the first HIV help centre that was set up in the whole of England, was in Brighton.
Right.
So it's the only place that people with HIV could actually go and get treatment. So there's a lot of, I don't know, I love Brighton. There's a lot of love there, and you can pretty much be whoever you want in Brighton. Went back to London to become a barber, obviously because of the discrimination that I thought was going on in the barber industry. And from London, I've come to Manchester to, you know what, because I love, can't be selfish.
Yeah.
my partner's from Manchester, and it's a lot cheaper here, cheaper pints.
Yeah.
But yeah, also because I want to get Hair Is No Gender out there in London. London's quite an expensive place to live, especially where I was from. So starting in Manchester, yeah, I miss the sea. I've never been a massive fan of London, to be honest with you. Anyway, I think it's quite if you've got a lot of money, you'll be all right there.
Yeah.
But I'm not a city person. I like the sea, or I like a bit more of a countryside. But yeah.
Yeah, I do myself as well. I love the sea. Something comes over me. But anyway, within yards.
And more zen.
Yeah, I feel it. We're made up of water. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very true point. But yeah, I do love that. I'm just not even into that busy rat race of London. And
yeah,
London's a great city. Don't get me wrong. And I go back once a month just to see my clients and my family. However, it's my partner's here, and I want to really just get Hair Is No Gender out there in Manchester, and hopefully we can. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things to come with it. But anything I can do for charities or communities and stuff like that, everything we do, I want to give back, because that's imperative.
I think the thing is, I'll hook you up with my team leader in Manchester, which is Jackie.
Awesome.
Jackie McCall. She's an amazing woman. She's set up so many projects there. And, you know, over the months and some have closed and she's reopened, but she's always reopening more. And also a lovely Kerry Jones, who's in Liverpool, which is very close by. She's got some great stuff going on there. So, I mean, I'll put you in touch with her as well, because there again, you know, Liverpool's a great city. You know, it's great. You know, I'll be crying out for your message as well.
Yeah, definitely. Send me. I'm there.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be up, so we can meet in person. I'll be up as soon as I can. I'll get up there whenever I can. I'm going to I think Wakefield soon, and but I'll definitely be back to see Jackie as soon as possible, because I jump in the van and I go up there and I take all the stuff with me, and I've always got loads of gear to give out to the.
Mate, bring your leg warmers. It's freezing up here.
Is it?
I'm telling you, I'm literally like, I'm in the barber shop with ripped jeans in my knees, and my missus is like, "Well, you've got no proper trousers," and I'm like, "What? This is fashion. Can't be fashionable up here, can I?" Got me long john underneath.
I tell you, it's nothing. Like, you got to wait to go. If you go up the northeast, I went to Newcastle to do homework.
Oh, good,
mate. They're made of titanium.
Made of steel. Yeah,
with big coat on and everything, and
because we're Londoners.
I've got t-shirts on, and the girls have got little skimpy tops.
Yeah,
and I've got me. I look like an Eskimo. I was like,
mate, I've just done an Amazon order of hotties. I'm getting them little hand warmers. I'm gonna, honest to God, it's too cold. So yeah, but it would be great to meet up with you this end, and I'm also about in London, so anytime with that end, I can come there as well. Like anywhere I can get some help, and you know, I know there's a foundation, actually, the Albert Kennedy Foundation, which is based in Manchester, which rehomes and helps homeless youth. So it's definitely an area that I'm going to reach out to and see if they need any haircuts. Yeah. But we can obviously talk about that more as well. So. Yeah.
So for the future, then you want to grow Hair Is No Gender as a movement.
It's a consultancy, movement, brand, whatever you want to call it. Basically, if anyone needs advice on renaming or regenderizing, or just join one of myself and my partner Sam, who is my partner, but she's also my business partner. We run an introduction to trans awareness course, and that's in the hair and beauty industry. Right. So we can do it bespoke to whatever industry you're in, and it's just an introduction. It's a 2-hour webinar where we go online. It's a safe space. It's not recorded, and people we teach. You know, I'll get you on one, so then you've got more of an idea. And it's questions and answers at the end with a trans friend of ours, trans man, trans woman, and non-binary myself. And it just opens a lot of people's eyes up to things. You know, people are like, "Oh, I'm good with this," but do you have gender-neutral toilets? Do you have sanitary bins in the men? Do you have this? It makes people be like, "Oh, actually, no. Why do I need that?" We just explain it a bit more. Yeah. But anyone that needs any details on that, it's all on my website. Yeah. And I'll give you details as well, because I think all of Millie's team at the British Beauty Council have all been on it as well. So it's definitely a great way to start.
Yeah, I'll go on that, and it's something maybe even our team leaders can do.
Yeah, around the country. Definitely, it's endorsed by Javier.
Well, the great thing now is that what's come out of the pandemic is all of this stuff. You know, you don't have to go and visit somewhere. You can literally jump online. As soon as it finishes, you're back in the kitchen making a cup of tea. So it's
exactly what I'm going to do.
When I first started the podcast about, God, I don't know when it was, at the end of 19, I think I started doing it. And we used to like trundle around, you know, like with my little bag of the recording equipment across London, you know, meet people, come back. Now, you know, there's the Tracy Emin unmade bed behind this, you know, that comes down.
Oh, man. You've got it all set up now. No, I was just thinking my missus is going to go mad because I've not tidied the sofa. She always does. Look at the background. There's nothing. It's all right. It's not that bad.
No, you've secured it quite well.
I took the rainbow dildo down. It's all
good. I should have got my daughter's one and stuck it on the side.
Next one we do. We'll take it as a token piece.
But we'll do another one where it'll be interesting, because then...
Catch up.
We'll do a catch up, see how it's going, but also I'll get my daughter to co-host. She did it once before with me when I had a girl on, Jess Megan, who's a girl. we talked about, I think I called it period, pubes and positivity. Periods, pubes,
nice.
positivity. Because she does lots of active work about grow your fro.
Okay. So just don't shave and all that stuff.
She was sort of freedom of, and she's very into body positivity. So
sweet.
we thought us co-hosted that. So we definitely do another one, and then what she can do then is grass me up that I'm not as forward thinking as I make out on these things. That
I think you've been great, mate. I'll take you.
More of an old dinosaur, and the two of you can gang up on me. So that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that would be great. Sounds like fun. Yeah, just let me know, and I'm there. Honestly, I really am.
Well, what I'll do, what I shall do is I'll get all the links off you. So when this goes out, I'll email you after what I need. But also, I will put all of those links on, and we'll get the message out there.
Amazing.
And make sure that we do our best to cut down on the stereotype and the stigma and all these things. I mean, just before we finish, I've got to say, I did someone's hair once who was going through a transition, and because of being homeless and in poverty, they was explaining to me they couldn't afford the proper thing, so they just had the bare minimum, and they didn't look very, they hadn't gone very far on for what was available to them. So
they didn't look that possible.
When they would then go into a lady's toilet, because they still looked quite male, they'd get a lot of abuse of going in the wrong toilet. But then they didn't feel, and it just explains.
They don't feel safe going in the men's either. Yeah, it's like a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and they got so upset when they were saying it to me, and then
mate.
But when I managed to do their hair, it was lovely, and I got a massive cuddle, pre-COVID cuddle, and they were at the very end of we was on the National Lottery advert, and the at the very end was them. Yeah, so
I'll have to have a little YouTube. It must be on there. That's touching, mate. That's really nice. And the thing is that you've probably changed their entire life, not just that day. And I think that's commendable. It must have felt good for you as well, didn't you mean?
Yeah, and as you said, it troubles me when you say, because I'm a light-hearted type of person, but when you do say
same.
that these things can lead to suicide, these things can, it's we're in such a delicate time.
They can and they do, and I think that's it. Mental health is I've talking about doing a lot of things with Tom Chapman, who I'm sure a lot of people are aware of who he is as well, and the ledge. Yeah, and I think it's it's people like Tom in his area of expertise, yourself, me, Errol. We're influencing in that industry, and whatever we can do to influence other stylists. We're in such a good position. We hold people, we touch them intimately, we push their shoulders up, we lift their head up, we give them a sense of pride. And I think every little thing we do, when even get them to look at themselves in the mirror. You know how hard it is for some people to even look at themselves in the mirror, and it breaks my heart that they can't even accept themselves. And if you can accept them, that will help just that little bit more. And I think that's the main message to give out there. It's just human first, literally. Doesn't matter what background you come from, how much money you have. Like, I don't care. Whatever you want to do with your heads, as long as I think it's going to look all right. But all jokes aside, we're trained in that as well, and that's we give an honest opinion, but don't force someone, you're too pretty to have this, or just choose your words wisely and educate yourself, and I think that's it. People will appreciate you for just even taking that little bit of time. Definitely.
A little bit of effort, a little bit of love.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of love goes a long way. Like a Rosie Lee, that.
Thank you so much for
thank you, Stuart.
And like I say, we'll definitely have a part 2, and as soon as it goes out, look for the links, click on those links, don't just sort of go past them and talk to the people now. Click on those links, find out about Keri, what she's doing, and
what they're doing.
We'll spread the word.
We'll do it. But yeah, I appreciate your time, mate. And I'll get it up on my website as well, so people can listen to it through that too. Definitely.
Cheers.
Have a nice cup of tea. See you later, Stuart.
It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. This is more than a job. This is a calling.